the events of September 11th were so horrifying that it's extremely difficult to believe that they haven't in some way changed every aspect of our lives. But you're saying, now wait a moment, let's not let the horror of those events overwhelm our ability to reason this through. As an economic matter, their effects are likely to prove limited. Is that right?
Well, more important, as an economic matter, their effects will operate through markets. And the market reaction will be such as to offset their effects. That is, their repressing effect. Their effect initially will be to tend to make prices come down, which will stimulate buying.
Prices come down because people don't want to travel, so the airlines have to cut ticket prices. There'll be gas prices are dropping, all of that.
And those things. So that on the whole, the market reactions, the automatic market reactions, in terms of what's called fiscal stimulus, without passing a law, as we've already seen, the projected surpluses came down automatically. Go back to the fiscal stimulus thing. Historically, what's happened is when you've gone in for fiscal stimulus, whether it would be good or bad or not, it always comes at the wrong time because of the delay. Before Congress is very slow to enact these things. After Congress enacts them, it's months before they get into effect. And by the time they get into effect, you're out of the problem.
We've got to do it, but won't paying for higher levels of security create a long-term drag on the economy?
Before the events of September 11th, and even afterwards, so far as I can find, most forecasters are saying that by the second half of next year, the economy will be growing at 2.5% or 3% again, and it'll grow at a pretty good clip throughout 2003. My question would be, what do they think they're talking about? It occurs to me, I hope I'm wrong, and this may be one of those that you can bat down pretty quickly, but it occurs to me that the terrorists have in effect imposed an onerous new tax on all of us. That is to say, we're going to have to pay more for security, flying places will become more expensive and more difficult, shipping things will become more expensive and more difficult, our defense expenditures will rise. It's as if we've all had a new tax levied on us, and isn't it reasonable to expect that as a result of that our GDP will drop and, and perhaps even stay at a permanently lower level?
When you say a permanently lower level, that's where you got to stop.
Okay.
Our GDP will drop.
Right.
But then it can keep on rising from that point on.
From the new lower level.
From the new lower level.
Okay, so the growth rate isn't necessarily going to change.
Exactly.
You can still get 2.5% or 3%.
Right.
It's just that and the drop will take place. Is it fair to say it has taken place? That happens all at once.
What has the stock market decline done? It's revalued all the property in the world.
And it did it in about a week.
Yes, that's right. And that's the way the market has reacted to that. So the value of the capital in the country has already gone down. And there's no reason why it shouldn't start rising from there.
Okay.
Again, markets generally overdo it.
Markets overdo it, but not as badly as government.
People overdo it.
All right.
And markets reflect what people do. But markets react much more flexibly and more quickly than government does.
They can correct their overdoing, so to speak.
If you look at past examples.
Right.
Go back to those terrible disasters of the Great Depression, 29 to 33. The market went down roughly 80%, if I remember rightly, something like that. But then it shot up quickly in the year or two afterwards. And so usually in these occasions, the market somewhat overdoes it and then quickly reacts. And I wouldn't be surprised if the stock market, I don't know, I'm not predicting the stock market, God, that's not for me. But one of these days the stock market will have overdone it and will turn around and start going up again.
Well,
maybe it's doing it already.
Let me ask you, you have lived a long and full life. How would you rate the attacks of September 11th as against the attack on Pearl Harbor, the oil embargo of 1979, other shocks, unexpected shocks to the economy? How would you rate this one?
Well, this one is much smaller than Pearl Harbor. It's a wholly different thing to be going into a war against two great nations, Japan and Germany. It's a war which cost, what, millions of casualties.
Right.
You're now talking here, it's a terrible thing, but it's under 10,000 casualties.
Okay. So now you're optimistic as to the workings of the market, that the drop has substantially, the revaluation, would that be a fair way of putting it? The revaluation has already taken place quite substantially. Then a final question for you, Milton. How optimistic are you about the workings of the government? If you have a conservative Republican administration engaging in this first dramatic impulse towards statism, is this going to be the kind of war like the Second World War, like the Civil War, like most wars that produces a much larger government?
It's very hard to believe it can be like the First World War or the Second World War. It's surely on a wholly different scale than that. It comes
By which you mean smaller?
much smaller, much smaller. But yet it's perfectly capable. Under Republican or Democratic government, that doesn't make any difference. It didn't matter. Government is government. And the temptations are there for people of whatever parties. You would rather have people who have a presumption against government expansion, but that won't protect you. It's only the people who can protect you by cutting taxes and taking away the dollars from the government.